Welcome to the program. My name is Sharon Momanyi. Our sign language interpreter is Lensa Owino. Now, doctors have rejected President Uhuru Kenyatta's 40% pay rise after a meeting with their advisory council. This essentially means that the doctors' strike will continue as negotiations continue on the demands being made by the doctors. The union met members of its National Advisory Council and was expected to meet government officials at the Treasury to seek an end to the stalemate that has crippled the health sector in the country. There has been a stalemate due to the government's failure to implement the CBA and instead offering the 40% pay rise.
We reiterate again that the basic document for negotiation is the CBA, and we request the authorities that this be accepted. Once the CBA is accepted as the basis for negotiation, then the matrix of implementation can be negotiated. But I don't think the idea of negotiating outside the CBA, in our opinion, is negotiable.
We have remained at our workplaces until the 5th of December. The government signed a document. Remember, we are calling it collective, between the government and the doctors. Bargaining, it was bargained and agreed. That's why it's called a collective bargaining agreement, signed in 2011. Then the government went, in 2013, then the government went on strike. Now it is our time to go on strike. So the government to do its part.
As you are aware, the talks continue. From here, we are going for the talks. And as we have said, the talks will continue.
Right, let's speak to our reporter, Timothy Otieno, who has been following this story for us and got the update from the doctors this morning. And of course, Timothy, the question that many Kenyans would be asking this afternoon is, isn't this deal good enough? And what exactly is in that CBA that is not, represented in this latest offer by the State House?
Well, Sharon, basically good enough, but perhaps not so good enough for the doctors who insist that they are not going to be talking about any other thing except what was signed in the 2013 collective bargaining agreement that I have here with me that promised them a 300% pay increase that would have seen the lowest earning doctor, that's an intern doctor who currently earns about 35,000 shillings minus allowances, get about 121,000 shillings. Now, what the government had tabled on Wednesday at State House Mombasa would have increased that salary up by just 40%. So it still falls way short of what the doctors have been fighting for and what has made them down their tools for 33 days now. And of course, they are insisting that it's not all about the money, but there are other things that they have been pushing for and fighting for that were in this document on remuneration and job promotion. Some of them insist that they have been in the same job group for nearly a decade. So according to them, it extends beyond the salaries and the allowances and more into other issues such as training. For instance, they want the postgraduate students to receive sponsors, to receive funding for their postgraduate studies from the government and the Ministry of Health, something that was not really highlighted in detail in Wednesday's meeting. So their issue is whatever was proposed at State House Mombasa on Wednesday was rather vague, did not look too serious, and was not far much different from what had been proposed by the government in the past. If you remember last month, around mid-December, they had also held several talks between doctors' unions and the Ministry of Health, and these were deliberations that were mediated by the Ministry of Labour, led by the Cabinet Secretary Phyllis Kandie, that offered pretty much the same, a 50,000 increase in the current salary. What was offered on Wednesday was 56,000 more to the basic pay. So what was offered is basically what the doctors have rejected in the past, and perhaps the government was hoping that perhaps by this offer coming from the head of state himself, it would perhaps change the hearts and the tune that has been sung by the doctors' union officials over the last month or so. It appears it hasn't changed. They have rejected Wednesday's deal that came from the president, and right now they are actually in a meeting at the National Treasury with the CS for National Treasury Henry Rotich, as well as Cleopa Mailu, the Cabinet Secretary for Health. They insist that they still remain open to deliberations, but they will accept nothing short of what was signed on June 2013. That was the collective bargaining agreement that would have seen them get a 300% pay increase. So as it stands, the doctors will continue staying out of hospitals, meaning Kenyans still have to go without that much needed medical assistance in public institutions as it stands. Sharon.
Right. Many thanks, Timothy Otieno, for that detailed report on the state of the doctors' strike. Of course, just clarifying that what the doctors want is exactly what they had demanded, or rather had actually come to an agreement, in agreement together with the government. That was in 2013, that what they are asking for is not just an increment in their salaries, but also their working conditions. It remains to be seen whether these negotiations will lead to an agreement on both sides. Let's move on now. And after burning the midnight oil in the Senate over the election amendment bill, the Jubilee side finally had its day in a highly charged debate that saw members make passionate appeals in support of their positions yesterday evening. Opposition senators maintained that the amendments to the election laws are rooting for a manual backup with a view to rigging the election. They warned that the arbitrary reviews of the laws continue to bring tension to the political environment and create unnecessary tension.
The ayes 26, the nays 10, abstentions nil. The ayes have it.
I am moving under 78, Mr. Speaker, and 79, that an unauthorized member of a delegation voted. This is electoral fraud, Mr. Speaker. This amounts to cheating, and this is rigging. And Mr. Speaker, we are not going to encourage a deviation from the norms that we have set in this House.
What the minority leader on a point of order raising is something that it was canvassed and finished a long time ago. On what account is he, on what is he addressing, who is he addressing to? Mr. Speaker, is he in order to continue raising point of order on a business in the order paper that was dispensed with long time ago?
I am not asking the Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet to rule on a matter. I'm asking the Speaker, the distinguished Speaker of this House, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Senator. Order.
It is a sad day in the history of this country, Mr. Speaker, that a senator can vote as a masquerade and provide a victory that is undeserved in a matter in the House, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Leader of Minority.
Mr. Speaker, if you pass this thing, you are committing suicide. Are we here to commit suicide as a House or to look at laws rationally?
I would have preferred the voting to have been along ideas, concepts, and whatnot, so that some are voting for one side, the ODM is voting for one side, some the Jubilee are voting on the other side, so that we come up code which includes Ford Kenya, code which includes Wiper, code which includes ODM. I would have liked it. In other words, I would have liked the vote to have taken place, but in a mix, more focused on the pros and cons of the ideas.
Can you be trusted? Even if a marriage that you enter in a church and after 3 months you say, we cannot live together, something is wrong with you. You need a doctor. And the person who brought this bill to us in this Senate, that person needs a doctor, whoever it is. We can't be seen to be changing our minds like little, I don't know, even animals have memory, but it looks like we don't have memory of what we have done. Mr. Speaker, I plead that this bill, if you pass it the way it is, this House, we are calling ourselves the superior House, the superior chamber, and yet we are not even prepared to change a comma from the National Assembly. You are just becoming a conveyor belt.
I'm not in this House to please them. I'm not in this House courtesy Senator Orengo or courtesy Senator Wetangula.
I am here as an independent senator, Mr. Speaker, a Jubilee senator, and I'm not here to police code. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Right, and just to speak more about this contentious issue, we're now joined by way of phone by Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar to just speak more on this. And good afternoon, Senator. We saw yesterday that this, Elections Act, the amendments to it, was passed with, no further amendments made to it. Is this it for the Act?
Yeah, in fact, there was no amendment. So when there are no amendments, it means the bill proceed directly to the President for assent. And that's the way the bone of contention was. That we had hoped that, first and foremost, as court and members of the court coalition who are in the select committee, we felt that the report is not accurate. It reflects many of the views of the people of Kenya. All major organizations, from media owners, the Kenya National Chambers of Commerce and Industry, the Law Society of Kenya, the Council of Governors, were all adamant that the article or section 34A, in terms of what was intended to be the new section 34A, or what is the section 34A in the bill, actually was provided for an alternative system of managing elections, which therefore creates Kenya to have two systems of elections. And yet the Constitution and Article 86 provides for only one system of elections. So I think it was an extremely bad bill. Our colleagues buried their heads in the sand. They really did not allow themselves to listen to logic from presenters of all kinds of walks of life in terms of all institutions and professionals. So I'm very disappointed in the coalition and in the Senate.
All right. I don't know if you can hear us clearly, but another argument that really has come out of what transpired yesterday night, Senator, is that the Senate is now being seen as a conveyor belt, in the sense that not much debate took place with regard to the content of these proposed amendments. What are your thoughts on the same?
I mean, we were sad that our friends would on one side, allow the Senate to be weakened to that extent. We'd always believed that the senators spoke in one voice, that the senators, in addition to many other things, would never allow the Senate to be weakened. We yesterday approved law that actually removes Senate from any participation with respect to boundaries. National Assembly ousted the mandate of the Senate. Even if in fact there was acknowledgement even on the part of the senators from the court coalition that that amendment was unconstitutional. So why would you pass an amendment that for a fact should be unconstitutional? Secondly, there were certain clauses that were purportedly being amended, clauses that were actually already repealed or non-existent. And Mutula Alonso Jr. tried to raise amendments to these clauses, but still they wouldn't listen. So I think based on a Senate of the Republic of Kenya takes a bill that is bad law and does not change a comma, that is a Senate that refuses to think. That is a Senate that the membership that forms the majority believe that you need to play politics rather than interrogate the substance of law. You have senators saying, yes, it's bad law, but it could be changed later. And Amos Wako, I remember telling Senator Mutai Kagwe that that's one of the most unfortunate statements that it's had. So I think this tyranny of numbers is slowly drifting into tyranny of almost some form of lack of thinking, some kind of mob. And I don't think it's good for the country. I wouldn't want even a court government to behave in that way. I wouldn't want a court Senate majority if when there's one to behave in that way, because we are Parliament, and Parliament is oversight of the executive.
Right. Many thanks there, Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar, just speaking to us with regard to that controversial election laws amendments that was passed by the Senate yesterday. Let's move on now. And anger continues to rise over an audio recording with a voice allegedly belonging to leader of majority Aden Duale calling for violence against a certain community in Garissa. The audio that makes specific reference to the upcoming general election seems to suggest that those from a certain community will not be allowed to register as voters in Garissa. But as Linda Oguta now reports, and right now we want to actually have live reporting from Nick Wambua, who's following proceedings of the investigations of this particular claim of this audio that was leaked yesterday. And he speaks to us from the CID offices here in Nairobi. And good afternoon to you, Nick. Perhaps you can tell us exactly what is happening from your end.
Thank you very much. And with me is the former Deputy Speaker and the current aspiring Member of Parliament for Garissa Township, that is Sharon Momanyi, who just came to express his outrage in the DCIO's office over Aden Duale's sentiments that a section of Kenyans in Garissa should be evicted from the county. And the reports are indicating that so far 2 people have been killed, with more even in danger. Right now, I'm with Sharon Momanyi, who is going to give us more of his side of what they just came to do with his colleague right here. Welcome, Sharon Momanyi. Just explain to us, what have you come to do here today?
First of all, a small correction. 3 people have been injured. They have not been killed. And from Kenyans, basically, who live in that place, and the community that he singled out, because he told them to get rid of Kambas, because I'm in Wiper. So the presumption is that any Kamba who is there is going to vote for me. But they're Kenyans and they've lived in that place the same way many of us have lived in Nairobi all our lives. But the reason why we came here is to talk to the Director of Criminal Investigation, the Directorate for that matter. Ndegwa Mohoro is busy somewhere else doing public work. But we had an opportunity to sit with his deputy, Joseph Ashimala. And has promised us that there's going to be exhaustive investigations on this, and the government is going to do the needful in this case. Because he not only threatened Kenyans, but he also threatened us and instructed that he wants these youths, some youths, to make sure that every time, about 50 he said in number, whom he's going to pay on a permanent basis. That whenever we have a rally there and whenever we're meeting the people, whenever we're campaigning, they're supposed to come and cause mayhem there, cause violence, to make it impossible for us to campaign among Kenyans in Garissa Township. And so what basically is we are faced with now is a situation that is so dire that we do not want a repeat of 2007, 2008. And the government has to stamp its authority on all Kenyans who think they can win elections through violence. And we have said before, and I'll reiterate it again now, there has to be an equal application of the law, not selective application. If Moses Kuria, Junet, Mudama, Ngunjiri spent all those days in Pangani, in the most ordinary and difficult condition that one can jail be put in remand, which is what all Kenyans go through, I don't see why the government cannot do that to anybody else, regardless of how high and mighty that person is. So we expect the president to walk the talk. President Uhuru Kenyatta should walk the talk in this run-up to the elections. And because we also hear rumors that there'll be violence, and people are already putting together militias, and we have incontrovertible evidence and information that is already ongoing. So this could be part of a wider scheme, and we don't want the country to go in that direction. Yes.
Just to ask, maybe someone can say that it is a political, what do I call it? It is a political work show in Garissa town, because you're also aspiring for the same seat with Aden Duale. What do you say about that?
Political?
It is a political showdown between you and Aden Duale.
No. Look, short of violence, Aden Duale lost that seat way back, many years back. And everybody knows that he did not even win it last time. I mean, it's going to be a massive difference. I mean, there's no contest. It's going to be a landslide. So that's why we are saying we don't want violence. We don't want violence. Let's go there and let the winner come and represent the people of Garissa in Nairobi in the National Assembly here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So that is Sharon Momanyi, who is just expressing his views against Aden Duale, who has been put on record, saying that a divide of the community, of the Kamba community, be chased away from Garissa town. And the question that they're asking is that why is Aden Duale still free after all these sentiments, and calling upon the government to walk the talk of evicting or dealing with leaders who are trying to create outrage in the public. Back to you in studio.
All right, many thanks, Nicholas Wambua there. Just following that allegation that has continued to really bring out a lot of uproar from Kenyans. You can see your feedback on social media regarding that, and a call to responsibilities from the leader. Of course, it's still under investigations to ascertain that that indeed was the voice of Majority Leader Aden Duale. And right now we want